Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Chad Wienen, welcome to ATV Talk, brother. How are you?
Hey, Leonard. I'm doing pretty good. We're still here in Florida. The weather's been great, man. I can't ask for much more on that end, and the family's healthy and I'm healthy. I'm getting back to health, so we're doing just fine. Thanks.
Does your wife know that you're not of Earth? Because a human man doesn't work the way you're working right at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it's mental and like how bad you want it, and it's unfortunate circumstances that happen. But man, I'm feeling pretty lucky to be able to bounce back the way that I did.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So the season started out great. You came out of Daytona with a 2. The points were close. You're striving for your 9th title. I know it's going to be an epic battle between you and Joel. Mm-hmm. When you went into Gatorback, everything was good, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Honestly, I was, going into that race, even though the track conditions were they weren't like my favorite, but man, I felt very comfortable on the track. I knew like in qualifying, like how good I felt on the machine and how much command I had on the machine was like more than I probably had on those conditions in a long, long time. So I was like, man, we're going to be racing today. I know that.
That's awesome. You qualified really well. You said you didn't technically like the track conditions. What about Gatorback wasn't your favorite?
Well, the track was it was more firm. It was like a very firm surface. Like they kind of left the track the way that it was on Friday because of the potential of rain coming in. So which I liked it that they did that, because it made like the track pretty gnarly the next day, which they left a lot of the bumps and kept it pretty firm. So it was like my style of track is more of like a sandy, loose base that keeps digging and gets really nasty rough. And this is more like almost like a pothole type rough. Mm-hmm. So like with me, like it's like I feel like I can use my legs a lot more in like a rougher, deeper conditions. So I tend to like those conditions more.
So kind of a blue groove, hard pack TT track with potholes in it.
Yeah, with some pretty good sized jumps on it too.
Wow. That race actually, if you think about it, 5 of you guys in the pro class had some type of injury at the end. Unfortunately, you and Joel were fighting for the same piece of dirt in the first turn.
Yeah, I think both of us knew how important track position was going to be that day, and both of us came out of the start. We were the 2 out front, and we both picked pretty far inside gates. That was like my kind of thought process going into the race, was I was going to start to the inside of them and see if I can at least get a wheel on them and try to control the first turn from there. And I'm sure he wanted to pick a gate that was far enough inside that I wasn't going to go inside of him. But, that's what I did. And going into that first turn, Joel carried a pretty heavy wheelie, like going into the first turn. And once he set that down, I really sucked up right up next to him. And before we knew it, like I'm getting like less and less track to work with, and I'm like driving off to the inside of the track. And he wasn't relinquishing any room for me. So it kind of started us doing quite a bit of contact and rubbing, which was wheel to wheel, but eventually like it catapulted him off of his machine. And I actually, when I felt like that happen, I was like, well, like I feel like I'm going to ride away from this just fine. I'm going to basically be on, I might not get the whole shot, but I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to be on four wheels. And before I knew it, I was like slammed to the ground and trying to get back up, like wind knocked out of me pretty bad. And just trying to put my arms in the bars. I was like, that doesn't feel right. That's not a good feeling. So I continued on and tried to survive the rest of that moto.
When you say you were trying to survive the rest of the moto, knowing that you were injured, or did you not understand you were that injured?
Oh, I definitely knew I was pretty badly injured, just because I could feel like the movements in my shoulder of like a bone not being connected anymore. And,
right.
Even though, I was like, I'm out here, I'm going to finish this, whether I got to roll every jump or I'm going to try and, jump the smoother jumps that I can and, put up with, the pain that I do have and see if I can gather at least some points out of it. And, that's what I did.
Wow. That you came across the line in, I believe, 17th on Moto 1. And then how long did it take you to decide that you were not going to race Moto 2?
Well, I came in from that race and got back to my truck and got off the machine. I was like, man, I'm like, can't remember who was there first. I think Thomas Brown was there first. And he's like, dude, you all right? I'm like, no, man, I'm broken. And he's like, you what? I'm like, I'm broke. Like, I believe my collarbone's broke. And so we went to the medic and they confirmed that I definitely had a broken collarbone because the way it was poking at the skin. And so we were sitting there kind of talking what we were going to do next. And the medic said, hey, like, you should go to the hospital. They'll fix this. Like they'll do an operation on you. And that's what I was thinking. Like, if I get an operation, that same day I can get back on the mend and I can heal up, try to heal up as quickly as possible. And that was my thought process. And then we drive to the hospital. Thomas gives me a ride with my wife, Danica. We hit the hospital and we go to the ER and, x-rays, the whole deal. It's kind of a, it's protocol to them, but it was a long drawn out process. And eventually I found out that they won't do an operation because it's not a compound fracture. So, and I find that out a little before like 4 o'clock. And I'm like, man, like I should have just stayed back and rolled around the second moto and try to accumulate, a couple more points. And, in that position, I was kind of devastated that they wouldn't fix it right there. I wanted to go in an operation, but that tells you how much, I haven't been to the hospital very much for injuries. And, this is actually the first time I've ever been to the hospital, in my, 20 plus years of racing, being at a racetrack, being racetrack affiliated.
Right. So you're asking them to fix it and they won't do it.
Yeah, they won't do it because they said it's a high trauma alert currently with, maybe the injuries that were coming in from the race. And then also must have been a hectic weekend at the hospital there. And so they said if that a bone sticking out or if it was bleeding, that they would have fixed it. And I was like, just give me a minute. I'll get this bone out and then we can fix it then, because just that's the determination that I had, that I wanted to get it fixed as soon as possible. And, So we had it back. They gave me a sling and some medication to take if the pain got bad. And I'm not a big medication guy, so I didn't even take any of it. And I probably should have that night trying to sleep because it was pretty miserable. But yeah, we found out later that night that I was gonna fly to Pennsylvania to go get my collarbone plated, and that was gonna be on Tuesday the following week.
Right. And you got it. You got a, well, for lack of a better term, I call it a gusset kit. When your frame breaks, you put a gusset on it. Well,
Yep.
Your bones broke, and they put a gusset on it.
Yep. Yeah, they definitely did that, and man, my doctor did a great job, and I was and I told him what my plan was, and he was on board with it, because he's like, man, you're in great health. You just do the things that I tell you, and you can definitely be able to do that, what you wanted to do, and, be in pain tolerant. Like, if you're able to put up with the pain, like, it's not going anywhere unless you do have a big get off that, or a big hit that would make it either bend or break the plate. So him and my chiropractor, we were both like we're all on the same page, and I went through several treatments to try to speed up the healing process. And it was they said, as long as I can put up with as much treatment as I could, like, it's going to help me. So I tried to be there as much as I could to try and get this process going and bounce back as quick as I could.
Did you, when you say treatment, were there laser or electric? I
Yeah.
can't even say the word. Where they
Yep.
use electricity or magnets to help the bone heal faster?
Yeah, like, so there's a lot of like laser treatments, a little bit of acupuncture. We did like we use a TENS unit quite a bit, like, and then obviously icing. And they they told me, they're like, well, we don't want your arm in a sling too much, because we don't want you to lose your mobility and strength. Like, it's not going to go anywhere, but when you need to rest it, that's when you need to have it in the sling. And like, yeah, like, it was like massage therapy to try and get like a lot of the swelling out of it. And it was painful at times, I will say that. But like, I would say after, like, week one, like, I was able to I was really started able to like use my arm. And I would like sit on my machine and kind of like, pushing the bars back and forth and getting used to like you doing those motions again. And it was yeah, just trying to do everything I could to try and be as normal as I've been, for as long as I've been.
Did the doctor give you any other special exercises to work the muscles or anything like that?
Yeah, like, it was more of like, my doctor, actually my chiropractor, said, I want you on the machine 10 days after the operation. I want you to be, whether it's just riding a turn track or doing that. And then, like, I kind of took my steps of riding a stationary bike. That was like the day after my operation, and then ride that for a couple days. Then I got on like my road bike, and then do that for a couple days, and then I hopped on my mountain bike, and just trying to, where it's not like heavy weights, and then also like using a lot of bands, like a bands for stability, and like also just trying to have that, like, use that resistance of the exercise bands, and trying not to like lifting heavy weight, but just having that resistance, and engaging those muscles again.
That had to have been super painful.
It was. And I feel like I got a pretty high pain tolerance, and you knew when it was not feeling good. Like, gosh, like, like, I would ice it probably like 3-4 times a day. And the worst part was in the morning. Like the morning, it like for the first like 2 hours, it was so achy. I think because of like, sleeping, you're kind of flat on your back and you're really stretching out. Man, when I would get up, I was like this thing's like terrible right now. But it's part of the process of breaking a bone like that and trying to get it requires a lot. It requires like 4 weeks rest. So I didn't have that time to do that.
Well, isn't that normally a 6 to 8 week downtime on a collarbone? You wouldn't race. You would.
Oh
You'd
yeah.
be off of everything for 4 to 6 weeks, right?
Yeah. Like they told me like a month to, to 6 weeks, like you said, like of, not like putting it under like high stress and kind of just letting it basically be in limp mode to let it heal. And, doctor said it might, if you get after this well enough, that it will heal enough that you can start doing those things early enough. He's like, you're in good enough shape. And he also suggests, like start to moving it because it'll create the blood flow, which will help the bone grow. So, trying to move it and getting flexibility. And, I like taking calcium pills and stuff like that to try and, keep that bone growing and growing back together.
That sounds it. That sounds great, because I've heard of other athletes with injuries going through similar treatments and they come back faster because they stay active.
Yep. Yeah, like
And
if you're already active, they stay like, keep that activity. Don't slow it down because, with your constant blood flow and you keeping your heart, pumping, and it's gonna help it, heal faster.
I know that this isn't all about ATV racing, and for anybody that's listening, this is great for athletes. You should all listen to this and take away from the things that Chad did here to make himself healthy and so that he can keep racing. If you're an amateur, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're a professional, you got to do, because this is where the bread and butter is, right?
Yeah, yeah, and like, being that it's, it was that early in the season that, like for me, like that's how I make my living and provide for my family. And it's I know it's not all about that, but if I'm able to, I'm going to, uh and I feel like I'm a really good like listener to my body. And I was very well aware of what was going on. And I had my mental estate was in a good place, that I had my goal set and I chased after it. And a lot of doctors are pretty old school, where they want you sitting around and they don't want that chance of like, hurting that, re-injuring that, your collarbone again, and taking longer for it to heal. And I like that my doctor and my chiropractor were both very like progressive, that that's the way I am. Like I don't like to sit around and just wait. I want to see if I can help it out as much as I can.
That's pretty awesome. You talked about the massage therapy to get the blood flowing through there. That's also a technique that I've heard about for years and years through athletes. When you get swelling, that blood stagnates and slows the healing process down.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, we hit it from all angles of, with the, adding in that massage therapy. I did a lot of my stuff with, like mine's kind of like, it's like a Theragun, they call it. And it's more of like a light, kind of like trying to, push out a lot of the trauma and stuff like that, and the inflammation. And I use that. And then also like, I use like some scraping techniques with that as well. And so, my wife is very good with that. And I use like cupping as well. And, just trying to keep, those inflamed areas to go down, and so that you can because once you get rid of the inflammation, I feel like you're kind of like on your way back to like a good form and a good feel in my situation.
So did you guys stay in Florida? Your base was in Florida while you're recovering?
Yes. Yeah. I stayed in Florida. We did think about going back home, but the weather didn't really entice us to go back to Illinois just yet. But yeah, I mean, we had great people where we were at, and we kind of just ran with that. And I didn't want life to change because of what happened to me, for my family and myself, and well, I'll give you a story. Like, we were on our way back home from Gatorback, and we already planned a 2-day Disney trip with the family because we had a couple weeks off, and we were gonna try and enjoy that little bit of time. And Thomas is driving my motorhome. I mean, he's gonna drive it over to Daytona, and I'm sitting there thinking myself, I'm like, man, like, I'm not gonna be able to get this fixed, in the next, it was Saturday night. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to get it fixed in the next 2 days. So I'm like, let's just go to Disney and not change those plans because of, what happened to me. And I'm glad that we did, because it kept my mind off of it. I was more in tune with, like, my kids enjoying themselves and walking around Disney with them. And, they had a great time. And I'm glad that, we decided to do that, because, like, mentally, I didn't want to sit there and, be in like because my shoulder's still broken. So I'm just kind of sitting there, and I would be thinking about it a lot, and I didn't want to be doing that. And it was more of like, I wanted to be more in tune with my family and be around them. And just glad that I pursued that.
So you used it as mental therapy
Yeah.
to keep you from getting down and depressed.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy your children. And how did all that go over with your wife?
You know what? Like, Danica, she trusts me so much, and it's very good, awesome that that she does that, because some would be like, very, like, against maybe, like, me doing that or me deciding that, because she's like, I'm gonna be taking care of you too and taking care of the kids. So I'm like, no, I'll be fine. Like, I'm gonna still go to Disney with you guys. Like, I'm gonna push a stroller around and stuff like that. And last thing I need to be doing is just sitting there and doing nothing. And she's very headstrong too. And we're a good team with that. And yeah, I mean, she trusts me. Like, she knows that I have more control, like, racing than, most do going down the road in a car. So, and when things do go wrong, she doesn't get, like, panicked or anything like that. She knows that I'm a pretty strong guy, and I know that, mentally, it's whether, after this happened, I didn't have, like, repercussions of, like, being scared or, returning to racing because of what happened. And I think that's important. I still have the fire in me to go after it.
That's awesome to hear. So the relationship between you and Joel is not the greatest anyways. You are fierce competitors. You're not friends per se. When need be, like on with Team USA, you're acquaintances. This probably didn't help that relationship any, did it?
Well, I know, like, after the accident happened, he pointed a lot of fingers at me. And, after he watched the video of it, he's like, man, like, I think he figured out that we were both going for it and none of us wanted to give. And I think he came to that conclusion. And, like, after the moto went on, like Joel was really upset. He was yelling over my pit and, like, yelling at my dad. And I was like, I wasn't around. So I was, like, at the medic, and I come back, and, I was told this when I got back after the hospital. And I'm like, man, like, that's not good. Like, I don't want that. And, I walked over to his motorhome, knocked on the door, and we had a civilized conversation about what went on. And, I think that was good, because he was calmed down, after the race weekend. His race was done. And, I was, wanting to let him know that that's, like, I want him to know that I'm not going to jeopardize his like his health, or I'm not going to jeopardize my health to try and get a hole shot or try and win a race. Like I'm going to go out there and I told him I'm going to race you hard, but I'm not going to try to put you on the ground. And, we both came to that agreement. And, I'm sure he knows that, he's got a very big gap on me, but like, I'm going to come fighting this whole season to try and get it back. I know that.
So let's get into Texas then. Practice comes around, first qualifying. Did you have any idea how your body was going to hold up?
Like I was able to ride like 3 days prior to the event, starting a week before the event. Like I rode that Saturday before, and that was like a very light ride, like a turn track ride. And, after leaving that day, I was like, man, like I got a lot of work to do if I'm going to be able to get back to a good enough form to go race with these guys. And every day I rode like, another day, and then I rode another day after that. And it was like, I'm starting to get there. Like I'm jumping things, I'm doing things that I normally do. And, like I knew that I was going to have 3 days of travel, and like leading up to the race day, and I was going to have those days to rest. And I knew that was going to help me. And, getting there and then heading into that qualifier, I was, my goal was to go out there and put at least one good lap in for a time. And like, I felt well enough that I put 2 in. So I was like, well, like, I'm going to try to do that same thing this next qualifier, work on, just go out and circulate and look for lines, look for anything that could help me during the motos. And like to maybe, because like, I haven't been able to train very hard or ride very hard leading up to that. So I needed to make sure that I could save my energy, save my shoulder as much as I could, because it was in a recovery state. So I went out there and I just kind of put in my laps and, focused on my hole shots a lot. And, that really panned out for me that day. I know that.
That's outstanding, because that helped you get a better gate pick as well, correct?
Yeah. Like, I guess the first heater that I put in, I was P2, and I'm like, oh man, like, I'm like, that lap didn't feel that great. And then I'm P2. So I'm like, as long as I can get in the top 5, like, I'm okay with that. I didn't know exactly where I was going to stack up, because I didn't know like the condition of myself leading up to that. And then also when I was on track, like everything in front of me, like forward bumps, everything felt fine. But once I started turning and like extending my arm out, was like, ooh, like I don't have a lot of strength there. So it's like, I got to try not to like get too aggressive, on my, my left-hand turns was a big one for me.
So that took some away from your speed through
Oh,
through the motos.
oh yeah. Like I would be riding through turns and I'm like, I'm ready to get on the gas. Like I should be getting the gas now. And like, it felt like an eternity went by, and then I get on the gas eventually once I get going more straight. So like with that, my mental state was there, but my physical was like, no, like you need to not do that, because, the track conditions were really like soft and like like very grabby and ruddy. So like with that, it was very difficult to be like, to really push and see what you have, because if something did grab and go the wrong way, I don't think I was going to have a whole lot of strength to be able to get it corrected and be able to ride it out.
Wow, that's crazy. First moto, where'd you come out on the first lap?
I came out second right out of the start, and I held second, that whole first lap. And I felt like, I felt the pressure from the guys behind. And, I just kind of tuned in on, what I was going to do. And, eventually, like 3-4 laps in, I started to really feel more of a groove, and I was able to pull away from, Bryce and Jeffrey, a couple seconds, give me some breathing room. And I was able to maintain that for a while. And then usually if like I would say around three laps to go, I started to feel like more fatigue, and I would have to like drop my time a little bit. And I felt those guys starting to pressure me again. And I would, mentally just tell myself, like, keep doing one more lap, stay in the spot one more lap. And then I'd finish that lap and I'm like, let's do one more lap, and because, that, like, I guess racing that, it would feel like me like doing a race, like maybe like a week of training, like where I came off the off season and I haven't like rode or anything for a week. And then I would go right into racing that week. You kind of feel like almost like you weren't ready, but you're out there to try and mentally give it everything you got, and I felt a lot of pain and a lot of like exertion, I was like exhausted even the first moto. And like, I think one thing that I was very happy about, the way I recovered, like I recovered very fast, where like usually I would say it'd take me, all of an hour to start feeling more like I really got myself ready to go for this next moto. And I would say like within a half hour, I was like, well, like, I recovered well. I'll be all right this next moto. And, that was a good feeling to have.
Did you do anything different than you normally would do as far as any vitamin intake or fluid intakes, maybe more massage, anything like that?
No, like basically just trying to get the fluids in. I ate a little, I had a little bit of food, which, nothing out of the ordinary. I would say I just kind of, I didn't think about it a whole lot, and I didn't like try to like, be like, hey, like, what am I gonna have to do to get myself ready and all that. And it actually, I think that helped, where I didn't like overthink it. I just did what I've always done. And being more like I guess like aware of what I was gonna do and try not to make it a big deal.
Is that one of the kids?
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
That was my
That's
daughter.
great.
Yeah. Yep.
How old is she?
She just turned 2.
Wow.
January. Yeah.
That's awesome. My grandson's one of my grandsons turns 3 the 23rd
Okay.
of this month, and the last of my grandkids turns 3 in June. So
that's awesome. I have a cool story for you to share. We went down to see my cousin. He lives in Fort Lauderdale, and we did that this weekend. And both my kids love to swim, and they had a swimming pool. And like they both did like the survival classes and stuff like that. Learn how to basically, if they fell into a pool or water, they could survive, and how they do it. They fall in and they go right to their back and kind of float. And like my son, he can go in the pool and we can just let him go and we can just sit on the edge and watch him. And my daughter, she just started her classes again, and she's been doing that for about 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. And we were sitting there like along the pool. I was in the pool with her, and she was doing really well. And eventually both Danica and I got out, and both of the kids were just playing in the pool. My daughter was jumping off the edge and jumping in the pool, fully submerged, get back up. She would go to her back, float, and then she'd go to her stomach and then paddle and go to the edge and pull herself up on the edge. And she's only 2 years old. So I was like, that is a very cool moment with both of our kids, that we feel like we don't have to be in the water with them, and they can both play together and not have to worry about them drowning. Obviously you keep an eye on them, but they can both like take care of themselves if nothing crazy happens.
It just goes to show that children are sponges and they learn so well. And if you teach them, they're going to be okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's very cool to see that they have that in them.
I want to ask another question about your conditioning. I know you've trained super hard in the off season, and you were talking about the little bit of training that you did before you got to get on the quad again. How extensive did your road biking and your mountain biking get? I mean, were you putting in, the miles that you would normally put in?
Like, I guess I'd definitely like try to put in the miles, but maybe like the intensity wasn't there because of, you know, being able to have the strength in your arm to like, like whether it's like a standing pedal or like carving up trails that I was doing. But like it was at like a good 80% of like my ability, I would say, just be in that comfort zone. But like a lot of my stationary biking was like I was more bumping that up where I didn't have to worry about, having a get off on it, that early in my recovery.
Right.
And, and then eventually I went to like a rower, after I did mountain biking, and the rower was going to help me, really try to get my strength back in my shoulder. So I've been using that a lot, and I'm back to strength, my full strength training now of, trying to rebuild the strength in my bummed up shoulder.
What's your pain level now when you train?
I mean, I'm still like, I'm able to do like push-ups now and planks and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm, throwing up a ton of those, but I'm being very like aware of if I do it too fast or too aggressive, that I'll feel like, I'll feel some like pinching and stuff like that in my shoulders that, because I haven't used that muscle like that for, quite a while. So I'm very aware of, how hard I push. And once I get past that threshold, then, I know where my limit is.
That's outstanding that you're that aware. So we roll into the second moto and you led laps.
I know. I came out of that start. I gated really well. I had a really good gait. It was quite funny. Like first moto, Joel pulled the whole shot from the gate that he. So the gate that he went into the first moto and pulled the whole shot, he ended up choosing the gate that I was in for the second moto. I'm like, and I told him like right when he did that, I'm like, hey, like thanks for your gate. And it was to the outside, but I also knew that the way that turn was like the inside got pretty tight and the outside you kind of flow around it and carry a little bit more speed, but you had to be like one of the first two to the turn to be able to do that. And once I came out of that gate and I had Bryce to the inside of me and I didn't feel anybody to the outside of me, I knew that, I was going to be able to sweep this turn unless, Bryce did drive in, deeper than I figured he was. And he checked up early and I, drove around that outside and I was able to carry more momentum and get past him. And then I'm like, when I'm out front, I'm like, all right, I am now leading this race. I want to go for it, but I'm going to be like, I'm going to try and give it one lap to go for it, try to get a little bit of a gap from these guys. And then, once I did that one, like heater lap, I made sure that I wasn't going to put myself into too big of a hole of like, exposing myself of not having that much energy and, petering out towards the end of the race. So I kind of fell into my pace, and then Joel came up on me and pressured me. And I knew for a fact that he wasn't the guy that I was racing that day. And I know how tough it is to win when I am feeling on my game. So I just kind of let him go, and I tried to tag along with him for a little bit and try to pick up on some things that he was doing and against of what I was doing. And, was able to carry a pretty good pace. Even like it kind of mirrored the first moto. Like I was able to, bridge a gap pretty good, like a good 2-3 second gap, and carry that till 3/4 of the way to the moto. And then I'm like, all right, well, I'm starting to get tired. My legs are fatiguing. My arm is shot. And I took like a rest lap with like 3 laps to go, I kind of took a lap to try to catch my breath. And, you know, I knew that Bryce was coming. I could hear him. And I was like, well, like, I'm not going to be able to fight him off if I am trying to keep up this pace the whole time. So he got up to me and I felt him. And, you know, once I felt that, I was like, I'm going to try and like scoot away from this guy and get away from him. And I got that next lap, I had about almost 2-second gap on him. And I knew that, you know, I kind of broke him mentally, because, you know, I know what it's like to catch somebody and then they pull away from you. It's like, oh, like it hurts you mentally, because you're like, I got to do all that again. And like, I think what also helped me is that he was starting to get pressure from Jeffrey, that his mind went away from me and it was all about protecting his spot. So you know, with me, I couldn't have scripted up, you know, a much better day than what I did, you know, 3 weeks after, you know, what had happened.
The your mechanic, Michael Bird, sent me a message that he's never been more proud of you than at that moment when you came off the track, to see you smiling and happy, and you'd have thought that you just won the championship, because the way that the team was feeling, and where you thought you were going to come out and where you did come out was totally different. And he was just elated with your drive and the desire to win.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with his statement there, just being, you know, we knew that coming in it was going to be tough, and we'd have to all work together and dig deep throughout the day. And, you know, I was proud of like the grit that we brought. And, you know, we were both in a mentally a good place, that we were going to go out there and, you know, and try and be on the box. And then I'm finishing, you know, P2 on the day, and I pulled a whole shot second moto, led some laps. And you know, I told him, like, man, this is not over yet. We're going to keep battling, and that's all we can do. And he's on board with that. And we're going to, you know, continue to scratch and claw and see if we can try to pull off a good streak of wins here sometime soon.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. So let's have a little fun here. Unfortunately, in Gatorback, there was a situation that took you and Joel out of the front runner spot, and we had a new winner and a new points leader when you left Gatorback for the first time in 12 years.
Yeah.
When you think about that you and Joel have been dominating those 1-2 positions for 12 years.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. And, you know, I think the sport's been needing that. They've been needing that that change of, you know, the two of us. I know if I were a fan of this, of ATV motocross, that, you know, you'd want that. And, you know, as much as I want it to stay the same, of, you know, myself running up front and winning championships, I understand and I agree that we need to have 5 or more guys that can go out and win these races and make it very interesting and fun. Like, not fun to, not that it's not fun to watch, but make it more unpredictable. And I thought it was cool that, you know, Bryce got his first win, and, you know, I made sure that I called him and congratulated him, because that is a big deal. And it's something that hasn't been done for quite a long time. And, you know, hopefully that, I mean, seeing like, you know, Bryce and Jeffrey, the way that they've been able to step up their game this year. And, you know, it's definitely showing that they're getting themselves close to, you know, being up there, mixing it up with us every single weekend. And, you know, even sometimes they can make it happen, and they can be up there with us. And, yeah, I mean, that was a perfect opportunity for a different rider to win. And then also is early enough in the season that they took over the points lead. And that is a big deal. I know how big it is to carry that red plate, and, you know, the pride that you have to do it. And it's a good feeling.
Yeah. I the way you talk about it, I can see the passion and the emotion there with you. It was a great moment for the ATV motocross, because so many fans wanted to see this, and now I think Jeffrey and Bryce and a couple of the other guys see that it's obtainable.
Yep, for sure.
And Jeffrey has a resurgence. He's a veteran, and he's riding like a young, second year, third year pro right now. And Bryce came off an incredible 2022, and he's full of energy and faster than ever as well.
Yeah. You see both of them have that bit of fire, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some other riders that are going to probably start mixing it up with them as well. Maybe they need a little more time to get either their fitness right or their machine set up right. And, you're seeing those two guys try to go after that third place spot, and they're kind of dropping the rest of the pack. And it's going to be fun to see who else can step up.
Well, you top five is you, Joel, Bryce, Jeffrey, and Janusa seem to be so far the top five as we roll through this. Unfortunately, Zach got injured, which he posted a injury update video. I didn't get to watch it yet, but Zach, if you listen, get well, reach out. We hope that you're getting all the care that you need, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah, for sure. What happened to him, and hopefully he's in a good mental state to return to racing here soon.
Right. Yeah, I hope so too, because he was on fire. He was doing really well.
Yeah.
He was in a position for the podium as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I know when I was circulating that first moto, and I saw, there was, you could almost throw a blanket over that top three, that whole moto. So that good form.
I guess Jeffrey and Bryce changed positions quite a few times, with Bryce coming out on top.
Yeah. I didn't get to see a whole lot of position changing. I just saw, I saw Jeffrey out front a lot, and then eventually I saw Bryce, towards the end of the race. And so it looked like a really good race, and I wish I could be a part of it. But it was a fun one to watch.
I'm going to just say this: the professionalism that you show always is above and beyond. And I am so glad that you and Joel had a conversation amongst you two, that you two know what was said, and that anybody else, the spectators or anybody else in the pits, they don't need to know, because you two are extreme champions, and you guys have to have a positive relationship with each other. And for me, in the situation that I'm in and the experience I have, I think that it's pretty amazing that you two had that conversation and realized that you're both professionals just trying to feed your families.
Yeah. And, like you said earlier, I wouldn't say that we're sending each other, holiday cards or birthday cards or anything like that. But, we're both competing against each other at a high level, and, we both want to win, and there's only one of us that can do it. And I feel like after we're done, after maybe I'm done racing or both of us are done racing, I think we're going to have really good conversations together where we share a lot of those same moments together. And, a lot of these guys that we race with, they would hear me say that, but they might not get it, a lot of the things that we go through. So it's something that we can share together. I know when we take the boots off, but, we respect each other, and, that's what's most important. And, we're going to race each other hard and try to go home in one piece.
Exactly. Chad, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know that you're with your family right now, and I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with me. I know that there's a ton of people that want to hear this story and hear how your recovery went, whether they're fans or not. There is a lot of people that have asked questions, and I can't answer them, because unless I have the conversation with you, and now I'm just gonna, this is gonna be available tomorrow or on Tuesday. Just so that, we're not waiting to hold it. We're just gonna publish it tomorrow. So
that's awesome. Leonard, I had a great time. I'm actually gonna share probably a really cool story. It's probably frowned upon a little bit, but I'm gonna share it. So I figured out that I was gonna fly to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I flew out the Monday night before my operation. I flew up there, stayed in a hotel right by the hospital, and then I went into operation the next morning around 8:30 in the morning. And I told my doctor, I'm like, hey, like, I'm gonna fly up solo. I'm gonna get my operation, and then I'm gonna fly back home that same night. So I did that. I recovered really well out of recovery from my operation. Everything went smooth. I got Logan Tremelin from Tremelin Media House. He lives about a half hour away. He came and picked me up. We went to lunch, and shortly after that, he took me to the airport, and I hopped on a plane, and I flew back to Orlando, and I went back to Disney and another day at Disney with some friends and my family. And, a lot of people ask me, they're like, man, I don't think you're supposed to fly like after you have an operation like that. And I'm like, well, like, I felt well enough, and like, I didn't know I was going to feel that well, but I was like, as long as I get on that airplane, I'll be fine.
and the doctor and the anesthesiologist were okay with that?
My doctor was. I don't think I told my anesthesiologist that that's what I was planning to do. So like, try not to like overdo me, and really get me too drugged up. I'm like, go light if anything. But like, I informed them, but they like, both of them suggested, they're like, it's kind of tight to be able to do that, in the same day. And man, it couldn't have gone more perfect. Like, I didn't have like pain on the airplane ride. I didn't have any more pain until I got to my motorhome where we were camping at Disney, and I tried to lay down for bed, and I was so miserable that first night. And every night from there it got better and better. But man, just to think about like that whole like 4 days and what went into it it's kind of cool. And I didn't slow down very much, life as much. And I kind of, took it as, as a little bump in the road, but I wasn't going to change, what we were doing.
That's pretty awesome stuff right there. PA, are you prepared and ready for it?
Well, I'm getting there. Been riding quite a bit and trying to get back to my form. Like, I feel, more and more comfortable every single day. I feel like we're going to be fighting a lot more for that top spot. I hope that, I still have, over a week and a half till we go race again. I'm just hoping that I keep progressing as much as I've been. And, I think my biggest thing is like, I'm getting my strength back. And now, like, I'm trying to get like that combination of that strength and endurance where I can ride that pace the whole moto. And I'm getting there. I'm getting there for sure. So I'm hoping that we can come out and, rip a couple good starts. That'll be a good start to the weekend, I know, for me.
That sounds good, brother. I can't wait. Even though I can't be there, I'll be watching social media intently to see how it's all breaking out.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks a lot again.
Thank you again, Chad. I really appreciate it.
The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email us at hello@atvtalkpodcast.com. If you're in need of a consultation for your current racing program, a custom ATV, or an industry guest speaker, I have the company for you. Duncan Technologies International, Inc. offers host, MC, and guest speaking services at events. Builds custom ATVs for recreational riding or racing around the world. And they offer consulting services for professional teams or individual racers. Send inquiries to DuncanTechInternational@gmail.com or call 619-716-3600. 1532 for more information. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV-TALK Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.